Over the course of our lives, we tend to gather various possessions, and some of them find their way into the attic, tucked away and often forgotten. However, the story doesn't necessarily have to end there, as many everyday items considered antiques can hold significant value today. In today's video, we'll show you some valuable antique items that could be worth a fortune today. But before we dive in, take a moment to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Number 24. Lunchboxes. Lunchboxes from your childhood or even your parents may be tucked away in the attic. However, if your lunchbox boasts a coveted design like the Beatles or the Jetsons, it might be time to dust it off. Such collectibles have been known to fetch upwards of $3,000, making a once-forgotten item into a lucrative asset. Number 23. Cookie jars. When it comes to cookie jars, not just any will catch the eye of today's antique market. If you happen to have a piece from the 1940s or 1950s, you could be in luck, as that's what buyers are currently seeking. Specifically, a cookie container fashioned in the likeness of a well-known character or cartoon figure could fetch you hundreds of dollars. Number 22. Postcards. Now might be a good time to explore your family's correspondence, because a letter from a well-known pen pal can be valuable. Vintage postcards, especially those sent before World War I, also attract collectors. The better the condition of these postcards, the more money they're likely to bring in. Number 21. Computers. In today's world, smartphones can handle all your computing needs and conveniently fit in your pocket. That's probably why your old-fashioned computer is stored in the attic. However, if it's a truly vintage device, it could be worth a significant amount. Number 20. Stetson Cowboy Hat. Did you know that the iconic cowboy hat traces its origins back to the 1960s, thanks to the ingenuity of designer John Betterson Stetson? Beyond its fashionable utility, the Stetson cowboy hat served a dual purpose. Apart from shading the cowboy's face from the sun, it also doubles as a vessel for both cowboy and horse to drink. If you happen to stumble upon a vintage still-in-the-box Stetson, you could potentially sell it for hundreds of dollars, turning that piece of history into a valuable find. Number 19. Polaroid cameras. The desire for physical prints with a cool, nostalgic effect has driven more people to seek out Polaroid cameras. If you happen to have one tucked away in your attic, you could potentially sell it for a handsome sum, upwards of $500, depending on the model and accompanying accessories. Number 18. Arcade games. Some time ago, owning a Pac-Man or Pong arcade game was a cherished experience. These collectibles have appreciated significantly over time, and their current value is noteworthy, whether in working condition or not. Collectors have a soft spot for these vintage entertainment devices, with functional games commanding a higher price tag. A working Pong, for instance, could fetch nearly $2,000. Number 17. Paintings. It may be time for you to unearth the potential value of that dusty old painting hidden in your attic by consulting with an appraiser. Your seemingly ordinary hand-me-downs might have originated from a family member's friend or neighbor who later achieved fame. Consequently, that forgotten piece of art could turn out to be a substantial moneymaker today. Number 16. Vintage ads. Vintage ads from well-known companies like Coca-Cola have become sought-after decor items for today's interior designers. Take a stroll through your attic to see if you've retained any of these artsy accessories. As an added incentive, keep in mind that vintage Coke-inspired merchandise has been known to fetch up to $15,000. Number 15. Silverware. Take time to go through your family's silverware collection, as valuable silverware, especially from renowned brands passed down through generations, could turn out to be a gold mine. A vintage set might fetch you a handsome sum of about $1,000 or more for your collection. Number 14. First edition books. Unknown to you, some literary gems may be within your home, as first edition books can hold substantial value. Whether inherited or acquired from a bookstore, an old book from the 1930s, 1940s, or 1950s could potentially bring in $15,000 or more, especially if it happens to be a first print of a popular title or classic literature. Number 13. Vinyl records. For those that may not know, vintage vinyl records have become prized possessions today, particularly if you have the first pressing of a popular title. While there are things to consider when it comes to their worth, You may not have to worry about that, as there are online platforms that can assist you in gauging the market value of your cherished tracks. Number 12. Record players. With the resurgence of vinyl records, record players are making a comeback too, drawing the attention of music enthusiasts of all ages. Vintage equipment in particular holds a special appeal for some customers, and even less sought-after models can fetch around $130. Number 11. Toasters. Now might be a great time to take a look at your kitchen appliances, specifically toasters, and you might be surprised at their potential worth. While modern brands sell vintage-inspired toasters in pastel colors, an authentic old-school appliance in a similar saccharine shade can be just as desirable, selling quickly and at an excellent price. Number 10. Cereal boxes. While you may not want to consume the contents of an old cereal box, you can certainly sell the well-preserved packaging. A dedicated audience of collectors eagerly seeks vintage cereal containers, particularly those from iconic or now defunct brands. Dive into your attic to uncover these quirky treasures and consider selling them to interested collectors. Number 9. Baseball cards. There might be no better time to revisit your collection of baseball cards, whether accumulated by you or your parents back in the day. Decks from the decades prior to 1950 can command serious cash, depending on the demand for the featured players. Collectors also have an interest in cigarette cards from the turn of the 20th century, so it's worth checking what you might have stored away. Number 8. VHS tapes. VHS tapes dominated the at-home movie market from the late 70s until the early 21st century, when DVDs took over. Interestingly, some movies never made it to DVD, making their VHS versions highly sought after, especially those deemed controversial or banned. If you happen to have one tucked away in your attic, it could potentially fetch you a considerable sum, possibly up to $50,000. Number 7. Instruments. Those musical instruments hidden in your attic can be significant moneymakers when resold. Whether antique or not, well-preserved instruments, especially guitars, are worth seeking out. A barely used guitar from the 60s or 70s could hold substantial value for a collector or music aficionado. Number 6. Vintage magazines. Vintage magazines need not be from centuries ago to attract collectors. Their value is tied to rarity, condition, and the number of issues. If you happen to have a publication depicting a historic event on its cover, consider it a potential asset. Number 5. T-shirts. While newly made tees imitating a vintage look abound, authentic retro pieces can inspire vintage shoppers to spend big, with single t-shirts selling for upwards of $300. Number 4. Halloween costumes. Vintage Halloween costumes and mask sets can fetch you money, especially if they feature characters from famous movies like Star Wars. Additionally, old-school Halloween decorations might interest buyers, providing you're willing to part with these nostalgic items. Number 3. Typewriters. Collectors are willing to pay big for typewriters, with a particular interest in more colorful pieces, since black typewriters are readily available. The better the condition of the device, with fewer scratches or dents, the higher the potential sale price. Typewriters, especially those with unique features, can attract significant spending from collectors. Number 2. Barbie dolls. Barbie dolls have been a beloved plaything for generations. While many have cherished various Barbies, collectors care most for their first edition Barbie, the doll that started it all. If you happen to have this iconic figure in your attic, a significant payday could be in store for you, especially if she remains in her original box with all her accessories intact. The allure of a first edition Barbie has led some collectors to pay upwards of $10,000 for these nostalgic toys. Number 1. Tools. Now might be a good time to explore the hidden treasure within your attic, garage, basement, or shed by unearthing vintage tools. While they may seem simple or worn, items like saws or hand drills can hold surprising value for collectors. Take a moment to assess the potential worth of these tools, as even a seemingly rusty piece could fetch you a handsome sum. Picture the satisfaction of discovering that a weathered tool tucked away in your storage space could potentially be worth $3,000 to a collector. Whether it's the computers, vintage magazines, classic Barbie dolls, or the unexpected value of vintage tools, your attic could be hiding a trove of treasures waiting to be discovered. Take the time to sift through your stored items, as you may find financial value in these overlooked gems. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell as well, so that you won't miss out on our upcoming videos.